I'd love to introduce our panelist, Dominique Brown, Senior Director of Customer Experience at Liquid IV, and Sam O'Keefe, co-founder and CEO for Flex. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I know it's getting late, and I know everyone's a little tired, but you all are here because you want to win at AI Discovery, right? Yes, yes. Okay, a little more excitement. Yes, everybody? Woo! Okay, I'm here with two amazing people to share with you their experiences and some great tools. Dominique Brown is the Senior Director of Customer Experience at Liquid IV, which is a household favorite for us with teenage boys, and one of the fastest growing hydration brands in the world, which is amazing. I'm also here with Sam O'Keefe, and she's the co-founder and CEO of Flex, a B2B2C platform helping customers use their HSA and FSA benefits with everyday brands. And we're going to be helping you guys figure out how to become more discoverable with AI, because your customers are asking ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini for product recommendations and ideas, and your brand needs to show up. It needs to have the answers so you're visible before the journey even starts. So that's what we're here to chat about today. So let's get started. Of course, I want to understand, Dominique, from you, Liquid IV is the category leader. Why is it vital for even legacy brands not to get complacent about GEO?
Yeah, that's such a great question to kick it off with. When Liquid IV first launched in late 2012, 2013, they were a category disruptor. And so we got to control a lot of what the conversation was around daily hydration with the kind of content that we were creating. But 14 years later, it's a very different category than when we first started. And so we don't want to assume that what worked back in 2013, 2014, and even as the brand scaled in 2019 and 20, that we are engaging with our customers in the right way and that the same conversations are happening around hydration. So we are trying to meet our customers exactly where they are. And LLMs, the search, as you mentioned, quite a few of them, but Perplexity, Google, Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, there's so many out there, and your customers are engaging with it and having conversations, and we're figuring out how we can get ahead of those conversations so we can show up better when people are looking for their hydration solutions.
Yeah, that's incredible and complex as well. And I'd love, Sam, to hear from you similarly, like how are you, approaching this from your perspective in your category?
Yeah, so we think about it in two ways. As you mentioned, we're a B2B2C company. And so we think about it both, how do we help businesses discover Flex and partner with us? We also, and I'd say probably dominantly in this category, think about how do we help consumers discover the brands we work with, right? Where can we help consumers shop with their HSA and FSA funds? So we have to take kind of a dual-sided approach to everything we do in marketing, and GEO is no exception to this. I think that the main focus for us around consumer is meeting them, as Dominique said, where they are. And it's a small percentage now, right? If you're in commerce or you're in marketing, you're probably looking and it's like, oh, it's not that big, right? And what we're seeing is it's not that big, but it's growing really, really fast. And so investing now and trying to figure things out sooner rather than later, by the time it makes up 20, 30, 40% of your volume for inbound interest, you're going to possibly be behind. So we're all about like, we see where the market is going. Let's invest now and start laying that foundation so consumers can really discover where and how they want to.
Yeah, and I love that. And when we chatted, you had mentioned, this less is more approach, right? And for brands trying to get into GEO and getting their first win, what does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I don't know about all of you, but it can be a little intimidating when you think about getting into this space. Like my Twitter feed is just full of people that have automated their lives and automated, their entire stacks with AI. And maybe some of you are already there, in which case, awesome, great work. But I know a lot of people are not, and it can feel like, wow, how do I even get started? And so, I always like to distill things down to what's the first step that I can take that's going to really drive a lot of impact. And so, we've talked about how there's a lot of platforms. Okay, let's start. Pick one, right? Just pick one to get started. And then it's, instead of I'm going to optimize everything about what we're doing, it's, okay, let's just start. What are the top 3 questions people ask when they're considering buying our product? And you can get that. You probably know that intuitively. It's probably in your FAQ. But if you're not sure and you have a sales team or you have a user research team, you can ask them, or better yet, like use AI to listen to calls and extract it. You could also play around with these engines yourself. Try to get down, here are 3 questions about our brand that we want to show up for. And then before you even, spin up new content, look at what you already have. Look at your website, look at your FAQs, make sure that those are answered in really clear and robust ways, and experiment with them and see where it gets you. Like, it's one engine, 3 questions. It's very doable. And from there, I think you're just going to get a lot more confidence as to how you can evolve your strategy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Getting started is really important, and bite-sized pieces is a good way to start. So thank you for that. Dominique, you and I talked a little bit on our call about, GEO, AEO, and how it lives outside of just marketing. So can you tell us how it lives beyond marketing and how it works within CX and other departments within the organization?
Yeah, so I think I have a unique privilege at Liquid IV, where as the head of CX, I also get to oversee AEO and GEO. It typically lives within site teams and marketing teams. And I think what's so interesting about being a CX leader in this is that I'm always looking for the exact voice of the customer. Like, how are customers talking about the product? I think as marketers or growth leaders, we have a bias and we think we advertise it this way, we talk about it through claims, and this is how people are searching it. And as much as I would like to believe that people are searching what are the benefits of Liquid IV, that's usually not how they're searching our product and discovering us in LLMs. They're more likely to search, I'm looking for a hydration solution, or I need something for Coachella, or I'm taking a road trip. Like, what are the essentials? And that's how we're showing up. And so as we're thinking about what the actual voice of the customer is, those are things that I get to democratize across the organization and share with our product innovation teams as they're thinking about the claims that they're writing for the products, the regulatory teams who are evaluating those claims, the marketing teams as they're thinking about the types of content. So something we've talked about a lot, blogs, FAQs, PDP optimization, what type of language are we using so it shows up better in LLM search? And so that's a cross-functional movement. So marketing, site, regulatory, product innovation, and CX. And it's a collaboration between all of us as we're thinking about what types of subjects, what types of things are we prioritizing for AEO and GEO.
You mentioned something really important about cross-functional. So how do you get the rest of the org in alignment and get the buy-in from the other departments to support this type of, integration and build out?
Yeah, I think it's about competitiveness. And so for me, leading voice of customer analytics and data, the conversations we're constantly having across the board are, how do we stay competitive? How do we continue to turn out the noise and show up for our customers and remain the #1 functional hydration brand? And that takes effort. So not resting on your laurels, assuming that we already have the formula for winning. And if we just stay on this path, if we continue to challenge the way we think internally. So a lot of this is driven in the day-to-day conversations. We do use tools, we use Profound, but there are so many tools out there that are helping you to find information, understand how do you rank to your competitors. And so I love Sam's point earlier about just getting in the LLMs yourself and even testing and asking questions, but we're really curious and we will do that. We'll go in and test. We'll look at the tools we have. There's so many out there, Fermat, there's Evertune, there's so many great ones that are helping you kind of lead the conversation there. But it's talking about, where are we showing up? Where are the gaps even? things we've looked at in terms of like what type of blogs or long form content or FAQs we want to create. We've even talked about like, how are these other brands showing up better than us? And that kind of lights a fire throughout the entire organization to want to contribute to to how we're showing up in LLM. So I think one, not overcomplicating it, going to earlier points, right? But just also remembering like, what is our point here? What is our message? And it's, we all want to be competitive. We want, when people are searching for what we created our products for, we want that to show up first or to be one of the options. And then we hope that that leads to conversion. And the way we do that is we're increasing the confidence within our customer. So there is buy-in because we understand like where exactly are the things we need to go get to increase our competitiveness.
I mean, so well said. Sam, I saw you shaking your head a lot in agreement. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I was honestly thinking that I love so much that this lives in your customer organization. You're right. I think most of the time it is owned by the marketing org, and those two, frankly, have a lot of overlap and collaboration. But the great thing about it living in the customer org is, as you said, you're really learning a lot about the questions that consumers are asking and how they're talking about your brand and how you can better show up for them. Because I think, we all hopefully are in our businesses to serve the customer best, right? And that ultimately we want them to, solve a problem or meet their need or find what they're looking for that much more easily. And I think that, GEO is just another way to do that. And it's very customer centric. So I was just nodding because I was like, yeah, I wish I saw this more. I love it.
It is really unique that it is being led by the CX team. And I think that that is a great signal for other brands because you are interacting with customers in such, I would say, an intimate way. You're getting feedback that is often not integrated into marketing. So for you to lead that charter with all those signals and that data can lead to such great interactions and information that ultimately the customer really cares about, rather than us marketers thinking we know what the customer really cares about. You have that information at your fingertips. So I just wanted to underscore that. On that, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to also say, for those that haven't dug in here, a lot of these engines are using consumer content in order to inform their recommendation. So, as I said, getting started, focus on the basics, focus on your FAQs. But we've seen a real evolution with these LLMs using things like Reddit or a Trustpilot or third-party sources where consumers are talking about you. And so in that sense, it's a very natural extension of what a CX org might be doing because they're the ones actually showing up on those forums, trying to be helpful to the customer, and just wanted to call out those third parties that are also influencing a lot of, what gets surfaced here.
I love it. You just gave me the perfect segue into my next question for Dominique. How is Liquid Ivy using, platforms like Reddit and support materials to feed AI and understand the customer?
Yeah, I think for Reddit, that's a huge one because a lot of the conversation around specifically ChatGPT is that it cites a lot of Reddit sources. And so in the past, we've experimented with things like Ask Me Anythings, and we have also shown up and have kind of like a customer support function that is there responding to Reddit requests. I will be honest that we're not as consistent about it, and that's something that we're actively developing more strategy for with Reddit. But I think with product reviews, that's a huge portion, especially for a CPG as a product that people are consuming. They want to understand taste, function, efficacy. And so that is very public, not only from just our website, but we've been actively building campaigns to capture reviews, especially for our innovation launches. We just launched a pickle flavor. And so we want people to engage with that. I know it's such a unique flavor, but the funny story about that actually is it was an April Fool's joke and customers were like, we want this. And we created it and it sold out in 36 hours. So we were very happy about that.
Do you have a secret stash left for those of us that missed the boat?
We don't.
Darn.
But like those are the things, right? Like when people are curious, what did it actually taste like? Did people like this? And so we want to push those things out there, reviews. I mean, Trustpilot, but there's also syndication on your retail sites for third-party marketplaces. And so making sure we're pushing more of that content out. For FAQs, we do take a lot of like, how are customers actually asking this question? And then we're building FAQs around that for the site. So it gets closer to the language of the consumer versus like what we think customers are asking about. How do they use this product? What are the best ways to use it? So those are the answers that show up that are influencing the LLMs.
That's great. And I love also the pickle flavor. But beyond that, I think what you said is really important. It's really listening, understanding the voice of the customer, being where they are. Those are really important things that need to be at the forefront of a setup like this. I would love to know, Sam, from your perspective, how are you utilizing, for HSA and FSA, there's so much complexity that goes into it, and how to use it, where to use it, what to use it on. How are you using these channels, if at all, to also feed these answers and start those conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just at a high level, for those that aren't familiar, so HSA, health savings account, FSA, flexible spending account, these are accounts that are designated for health and wellness spending. There's about 100 million Americans with them. And historically, there's been a lot of fear and confusion. I think if you talk to people about these accounts, there's worry about losing money. What can I spend it on? What's eligible? What's not? All of these types of questions. And so in that sense, it's actually very well suited to these types of, LLM searches, because people are not often just asking one question. They're really trying to understand how to use this benefit. And so we see kind of a huge opportunity here compared with a more traditional kind of like SEO, where you're just looking for certain keywords or phrases. But it's really, what's the customer journey? What's the line of questioning here? And that can look different depending on what they might be buying or kind of their persona. So we think about it, we work with brands in two ways. A big part of what we do is we have a consumer arm to help customers discover where they can shop. And so a lot of our GEO focus is around, yes, of course, like Flex enables this, but more importantly, helping the consumer connect with that brand directly. And in the context of, this is HSA or FSA eligible. And so what are those types of questions coming up? And the models are really well suited to those types of inquiries we found. So we think about it as a big part of how we can help brands be discoverable, because you may not be thinking about HSA, FSA every day. That's my job, right? So how can I help you show up to this very kind of specific and large audience?
Yeah, and it's complex. I know for a lot of people who have those, benefits, they often don't know where to go or where to find that information. And I think that using LLM is becoming a natural place because it's more conversational. And so the discovery for the partners that you mentioned, I think I'd love to hear more on how you are setting them up for more discovery so that you are extending your, support to them beyond just the customers.
You mean like how we're helping those brands get discovered?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can think of us, we have a whole consumer arm. So we have our marketplace, we have social, we have email. I think a lot of where we're focused is on that top of the funnel awareness and education. So if someone's going to an LLM, we'll work with our brands and say, well, ask them or ask their support teams, what are the top 3 questions that people consider for your product? And then we'll sort of take that, we consider ourselves kind of a marketing extension, a real partner, and we'll take that and say, okay, now we have our HSA, FSA expertise, and we can help build content that's going to help consumers find you directly and also find you through kind of our curated marketplace as well.
That's awesome. So a really good platform for that need. I'd love to hear from both of you. I'll start with you, Dominique. If people in the audience wanted to get started with, setting up their own AI discoverability and getting their AEO and GEO in order, what are maybe a few of the top recommendations you'd give them to get started in 90 days?
I would definitely say blogs, starting with creating blog content. I think that there was a push a few years ago to move away from blogs and focus more on social media, Instagram channels, TikTok. But we're seeing with AEO and GEO that blogs actually really move the needle and are some of the fastest ways to improve your discoverability in LLMs. So I would definitely say focusing on blogs, creating content, and then don't be so rigid about the type of content you're creating. Like, honestly, a lot of us are in categories where we're creating conversations, and those things are helpful as well. So just getting started there, I would say FAQs. The user experience, finding FAQs, how many websites do you visit? And if you try to even find an FAQ, it's buried. You can't even search it on the website to get answers for questions. So those things, working on FAQs, working on the discoverability within your own website for that, and then showing up on channels that maybe you historically wouldn't pay attention to. So definitely Reddit is one of them. A lot of customer support teams are not set up to respond to Reddit comments and have a brand persona. And so I think that's a very easy place to start. And all of this, of course, is contingent on resources. I think that's the big conversation everyone's having is there are a million AI projects, and which one do we prioritize? How do we get the resources for this? Getting started, really start with the internal resources you already have, and then align strategy as you're building. I think even for a brand like Liquid IV, we started to overcomplicate it in the beginning. And then we had a conversation and was like, we just need to get started. We just need to start writing blogs. And then we started that process and we built on it.
That is great advice. Just get started. Don't overcomplicate it. Thank you for that, Dominique. Sam, I'd love to hear from you. What are things that the audience can get started with in the next 90 days to kick off their journey with discoverability with AI?
Yeah, well, completely agree with what has been shared. And I spoke to some easy ways to get started earlier. So to give a maybe different perspective, I think one thing I always like to do is ground yourself in some data. So you're all, I think everyone's using some type of like SEO measurement tool, and almost all of them now are rolling out like AEO and GEO analysis. So I think step one, you may even wonder, who does discover, what is my audience? Are they coming through this channel? And then who in my audience is coming through this channel? I always like to just start there. You can get a specialized tool, and as you get more into this category, you probably will. That'll be useful to you. But I think a lot of the tools that people are already using, they're all rolling this out. So take a look at that data, see how it's changed over time, and then use that to start taking the steps of discovery. What are the top 3 questions people ask? Are they on our blog? Are they on the FAQ? But looking at the data, we launched this content in 2 to 4 weeks. What does it look like? Because that is one thing that's really cool about this space, I'll say, is that it is moving really, really fast. And while that can both be intimidating, it's also a huge opportunity because you're not that behind. And we've seen, OpenAI definitely was leveraging Reddit. We've seen that influence fluctuate over time. And then there's a new site that maybe they're now looking at, and you can be a first mover there. Like, what an opportunity compared with the SEO space where there may be an incumbent in your category that's just dominating those keywords. This is greenfield. You can go out there as the little guy, and if you have the most useful content, you can get picked up in a couple of weeks. So I think it's pretty exciting.
It is exciting and it is moving fast. And if you get in early, there's so much upside. But if you wait till everyone's doing it, it's going to be a lot harder to show up and gain traction. So I love that note. With that, we are at the end of this session. However, I want you to both know that Sam and Dominique will be on the exhibit hall available for questions. If you guys want to go find them later, ask questions, catch up with them on any thoughts you might have, they're happy to help. But thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope this was helpful and I hope you all get started somewhere.